He's a 5-time best-selling author. You can get his new book for free right now on Amazon in the Kindle version. It's called The Road to Excellence. He helped us expand in multiple countries to grow this organization and to grow sales teams around the world. He's our president and CEO. Please welcome David Mattson, everybody.
Thanks. Good morning. You know, I was struggling back there. I was thinking about, well, what's my next breakthrough? And I said to myself, well, there it is. I guess the next book's title is The One Sandler Rule You'll Always Remember, right? And I racked my brain. I said 49 must be it, but oh so wrong, oh so wrong. So as I'm up here, if you guys kind of look left and look right, this place is packed, and it was packed last year, it's packed this year. We're outgrowing this place, which is great. But it's really because I want to thank you guys for spending 2 days of your time and energy to get here. I know it's a big commitment. I've seen all the presentations, so I think you're in for an awesome 2 days. And I promise from my end, we will meet and exceed your expectations. And so we're going to talk about breakthroughs. In my opinion, I think most people, as I do executive coaching, they're talking about, you know, I want this one breakthrough in my career. I'm waiting for it, you know, and I'm almost at the end, Dave. I'm getting nervous. I'm waiting for the big breakthrough. I don't think you have to have one breakthrough in your career. I honestly think that you could set yourself up for multiple breakthroughs. How do we do it? You know, Mike gave us some foundation, but how do you actually take our game consistently to the next level? And breakthroughs could be on the conceptual side, could be on the professional side, could be on the personal side. That doesn't have to be in one particular group. So I'm going to spend some time talking to you about how to create the environment where we can have a breakthrough. But before I do that, I'm going to go backwards. How many of us had the opportunity to go outside in 70-degree weather and have the cocktails last night at our mixer? We do that? It's awesome, right? So I walk around and just hello, 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 and I met groups of people. So I just want to take a couple seconds. One group of people, I had the opportunity to reacquaint myself with people that I have seen at the summit 5, 6, 7 times, and it was awesome, because we got to reacquaint ourselves. Hey, what's going on in your world since last time we saw each other? And so business owners would say, well, I bought this business, I've sold that business, we've expanded our products and services, we're killing it because of the economy, all the things. And those are awesome. And they said, Dave, what's going on in your world? And of course, you all know because you're in it, but we've moved everything over to our platform. So we've got 700 podcasts in there. And we've got tools, so you can create your own 30-second commercial, you can create your own upfront contract, all the things that our trainers teach us that we're supposed to go home and actually do, we've now created it where you could do it in class. So all these things are going on. And the challenge, as I explained to them, was that we've got different groups within this. We've shot 1,200 videos since June that are under 2 to 3 minutes long, because the other videos that we had prior were 15, 20 minutes long, you know, but I like, you know, we have different groups. We have people that are in their 30s, like myself, and then we have people that are older, like you. So it's, you know, you have to kind of judge and juggle all these things that are going on. And that was kind of cool. And then we saw some individuals that came up, individual salespeople who have been here many, many times. I saw somebody in the elevator when I was going back up a couple minutes ago. I said, well, how many times have you come? He goes, I don't know, it's long, many times, many times. And they're telling me, hey, here are all the things that have been going on in my world over the last year. Here are the successes, here are the losses, here's how I've saved myself time over there, I've got myself out of this, and all the war stories start to pop out, right? Because you know what happens with a group of salespeople, war story after war story. And that was nice. They're saying, hey, I'm using all the enterprise selling tools. I love CARE. And if you don't know what that is, it's really a way that we segment our clients in 4 categories, so we can figure out how much time do I want to spend in each one of those categories, and what are my tactics and strategies. So they were using that. They were using some of the newer tools that just came out. So they were really excited about the things that help them go really to the next level. And that was great. And then I met a lot of people for the very first time here. Now, they are brand new clients, or that are here for the first time, or clients that have been with us for quite some time but have now just decided to come to the summit. And if you have to think back to the first time that you were exposed to Sandler, lots of good stuff happens, right? So flashback, I hear one group of people come up and say, hey, Dave, I got to tell you, before I met Sandler, we had long selling cycles, giving away margin, right? My life was miserable. I took rejection personally. I was afraid to pick up the phone. I didn't have any upfront contract ready to go when it came to proof of concept. And the list of pains would go on. It's like they were going back in time and living what it looked like. And we all remember that, right? We all remember getting dragged through the mud and people saying, don't worry about it. We're different. I promise you, if you go and give us this demo and this presentation proposal, you will get the business. We all had that. So that was cool. And then they come and switch. Their whole face lights up and they say, but let me tell you now, after I've been with my trainer, I love that 30-second commercial. That's the greatest. I get to start my call with a pain indicator. I love the pattern interrupt. I love the going not okay on purpose. That's my whole life, but now it's actually a technique, so I feel really good about that, right? So that's cool. That's really good. You know, I spilled water all over on the thing, and I said, oh, I'm so sorry. They said, no, don't worry about it. I'm like, wow, it's awesome. So I love the monkey's paw, so I'm making smaller sales, doing things. So they're listing all these tactics and strategies that they love, which is awesome. You know, if you even in Disney, you go to Disney for the very first time, you're seeing it through the eyes of people who haven't experienced it. And that's what makes it special, because I've been doing it 30 years. I was in the President's Club 30 years ago. And sometimes you forget about all the light bulbs that went off and all the excitement when you first hear the fact that you could actually close the file to move on. It made no sense at the time, but you get excited. And so at the end, somebody came up and they said, oh, we haven't met before. And they said, hi, I'm Dave. And they said, hi, I'm Mike Nickelplitz. Hi, Mike. And we're doing our thing. He goes, hey, listen, I love that upfront contract thing. I said, you do? Yes, that's the best thing that you guys teach. I love the fact that you could do time. I love the fact that you could figure out what they want. I get to say what I'd like. It's awesome, awesome. Now, my trainer, Dave, my trainer gave me a 301 move. Ninja style move. I'm gonna share it with you. I don't think most of the other people know it. I'm like, well, okay, what is that? You ready? I said, I'm ready. Did you know that you can actually set the stage for a decision that you want to make at the end of the call? And they call it outcome. Did you know that? Psh, I said, that's awesome. So you could use that. You could use it if you want to. I said, well, do you mind if I share it? Nope, I'm going to share it. So it's great, right? Because I remembered all that. When I first was in President's Club, if you think about where you were, going way back, you hear things for the first time. I used a lot of it right away. Made sense to me, right? I do that, that's good. I probably used half of it anyways. And so the other half that my trainer shared with me, fine, it's no big deal. Some of it I said, no way, no way. I don't want to mess up my 98%. You know, because when you fail 98% of the time, there is, you know, there's comfort. There's comfort. You kind of know what's going to happen before you start, and that's comfortable for me, right? So I didn't want to mess that up. And there's a couple things that they said, and maybe with you too, that they actually taught you moves in the President's Club or in your corporate clients, and you said to yourself, no way, I've been doing that for years. I'm pretty sure Sandler stole that from me. I deserve royalties. You know how many of us think we got the royalty thing going? So lots of stuff. But regardless, if you're here for the very first time or you're here for 7 times, if you look at this room, we're filled. Why? Because we all believe in personal development. We all believe in personal improvement. We all know that it's our responsibility to step it up. No one's going to do it for us. We all know that. We also are all tied here because in some way, shape, or fashion, we're participating in Sandler. So that's the thread. Regardless if you have been doing it for 30 years or 3 days, Doesn't matter. But I do want to say from the Sandler side, before we jump into the program, I do, bottom of my heart, want to thank you for allowing Sandler to be part of your life to help you take your game to the next level, because I realize that takes an incredible amount of trust on your end. And so thank you for us, from our perspective, for allowing us to be part of your professional career. So thank you for that. And I also want to do a quick shout out to the Sandler trainers, because you're all here because you're working with a rock star. And I have the privilege of working with this group of people every single day. And I have to tell you, they care about you more than you may know. So I want to just give a quick shout out to those Sandler trainers. They do an awesome job. All right, well, let's talk about breakthrough. So, as I said, people are kind of waiting for the big one. You know, what am I doing? You know, we're sitting around out on a Friday night saying, breakthrough night, breakthrough night. It's not how it happens. I think what you can do is we can set ourselves up for lots of different breakthroughs in lots of different areas. Now, there is a definition behind me, which to me is a lot of words. So I just kind of, in Dave's style, I kind of moved it down to things I can understand. And it seems to me if you just shake it out, a breakthrough is basically any significant advancement because we've overcome an obstacle or an obstruction. That's really all it is. So the breakthroughs can be very personal. But if we break this down for a second, really think about it, we're actually what? Any significant advancement. So we're moving forward, right? We're moving forward. So if we think about that part of the definition for a second, if we're breaking through, then we have to be looking forward. We're always moving this way. It doesn't mean that we're looking back. I'm not going back to history to pull out my victories, for live in the past. You're not going to have a breakthrough if you're constantly talking about the wins and the victories that you had last year. It's not how it works. If you listen to any of the sports teams that win, what do they say? Last year was last year, now we have to move forward. So they're not living back there. They're not living back and going back to fear, doubt, and worry, right? We know those are the three biggest monsters that will pull you back from a breakthrough. Sometimes it's not technical. Sometimes it's right up here. It's right up here. So we're not reaching back for all that. That's not really what it is. You've got to look forward. But we also know that some of us, we look down. We look down. We're focusing in on not how I'm going to break through, but we're focusing on what am I going to do this week? What am I going to do this quarter? How am I going to get my year? I'm focusing even on me, just being selfish, just me. But I'm looking down. I'm looking at this picture of time that is short. So if you think about it, breakthrough is look forward. If you're looking down, what is that, a breakdown? I don't know, but it has to be look forward. So if you remember the story that I told you maybe a summit or two ago, Sandler would always force us to look forward, always. He would always tell us, move the flag, move the flag. What did that mean? Well, in the beginning of a year, let's say it's about this time frame, Sandler would say, we've got a huge issue that I'd like us to think about. I'd like us to think about it. And so he would put that goal, that flag, way out there. And I'm going to call that 100, just for the sake of, so we can have some measurement. So he would put that out way out by the 100. Now, we as a team would say, wow, that's about 60 yards longer than I thought we were going to have to go there. And we would start to look. In the beginning, we would say there's no way this could happen. So we're in total denial in the beginning, in shock. Sandler is persecuting us, right? What's going on? And then you get to the point of, well, what happens if the opposite was true? Could we do it? And then we start saying, well, how would we get to 100 if we look at it from our competitor's perspective or our customer's perspective? Or what happens if we look at this situation from the marketplace and stop looking at it from where we were or where we are? And so we would be killing ourselves. But you know what he did every single time, when we got to about 75%, 80% of goal, he would walk out, wouldn't even sneak, do it right in front of us. He would get that flag at 100, and he would move it out to the 120 mark. Boom. Like, why would he do that? Why would he do that? Was he trying to demotivate us? I don't think so, because we would celebrate the fact that we were almost there. Was it because he didn't want to pay us? He paid us. It wasn't that. What he was afraid of is because we spent so much time looking forward that he didn't want us to look down, because he was afraid as we got closer, we wouldn't do all the things that we did to get to where we were at 75 to 80%, knowing full well we were going to blow through 100. Think about sports, if you would. If you think about sports, every Sunday this particular football season, there's a couple things that happen. In the fourth quarter, there's 60 minutes of play. These two teams are scrapping. They're doing their thing. The underdog finally is ahead sometime in the late fourth quarter, right? Now, you would think they just have 3 minutes just to hold the line, and they're going to win. 3 minutes, they can do it. 57 minutes behind them, what do we do? So you would think that they would do what? They'd line up. When somebody's coming after them, they pop them like they have been for the other 57 minutes. They push them. They do all the things that they were supposed to be doing, very aggressive, making sure they were on them. They were wanting to win. That's what you'd think they do. But what do most of the time? What do they do most of the time? You know what they do? They move back 5 to 10 yards. And they're not out to win necessarily. They're out to save, keep the, right? They want to keep their lead. They don't want to lose. And the whole thing changes, and you know that because they're coming out, and here's what they're saying to themselves. Okay, I'll give them 5 yards. It's okay, because I just don't want them to score. And the next thing you know, the receiver comes out, 3 yards, turns, gets a thing, 3 yards, turns, and pretty soon, 3 to 5 yards adds up. And you can see the momentum shifting. You can see that the offense is getting confident. Then they think, hey, we have a shot. And then the next thing you know, they're moving back a little more, because now they're saying, well, we maybe not score. Now we can't even let them get a field goal. A field goal, we can't let them get to the 47-yard line. So what happens? Because they're in protection mode, every single time, because they're in that safe mode, boom, right by them. And they lose that game. And so Sandler witnessed that. I witnessed it like 5 times this fall. It happens all the time, and you can see it when you're sitting at home. You're saying, oh my gosh, no, 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 yes. Okay. It's predictable. It's predictable. So he would make sure that he popped that sucker out there. Now, did we hit 100? You know what? Most of the times when he moved it to 120, we were at 105, 110, 120, 127. Because we no longer focused on 100. We weren't doing this any longer because we knew we were going to make it. We didn't want to coast, so then we went even further out. So from that perspective, he was a genius because he just kept us going, celebrating along the way. So significant advancements. And what's the other one? What's the other one? Well, the other one is, if you think about it, removing an obstacle, right? Or overcoming an obstacle. Well, in my mind, there's really 2 things going on here. One is, if we're going to remove obstacles, which are very personal, so an obstacle for you may not be an obstacle for me, right? So what are they? Well, if you think about it, there's 2 things. Conceptual obstacles or technical obstacles. So for the next 2 days, we're going to be sharing with you, here are some obstacles that you may face. Here's how you overcome them. Because conceptual obstacles, the things that between your ears, that's about 80% of the reasons why we don't have our breakthroughs, because we're not allowing ourselves to have breakthroughs. We're dealing with all that stuff, fear of success, fear of failure. I talked to somebody the other day and they said, David, you know the The real issue is why I don't want to do this. I don't want to look stupid. I said, okay, so how would you look stupid? Because if I don't get it done, everyone's going to look at me, and then I said, I feel like an idiot. I was, okay, so, but that's a obstacle. That's a conceptual issue. We all have scripts, right? Hey, don't make too much money. Only make enough money that you need to survive. My parents were teachers, so I grew up in a single income home. So I'm one of 4, right? So my parents, as a teacher, they had high hopes. They're saying at the very least, we should have another teacher coming into this world named Mattson. Well, if we're going to upgrade a little bit, we'll certainly take a doctor, certainly take an accountant. I'm looking at him. I don't think he's going to be an engineer, but we'll take one, right? And if everything else fails, if everything else fails, maybe we'll take an attorney, right? So, pretty shocked when I came home after years of driving me to sports. I was supposed to be in baseball, sent me to university, came home and said, hey, Mom, guess what? Great news. I'm in sales. I'm in sales. And total commission. And they told me I can make more than anyone if I got total commission, either a salary or total commission. Little money, big money, I took big money. My mom is like, what? Dave, your son is moving home, right? But if you think about all that stuff, my parents, and they love me, but the obstacle is they've destroyed my ability potentially to be in sales because they loved me. My parents, took me a while to figure that one out too. So they would say, David, go out and play. We didn't have PlayStation back then. We didn't have phones. We actually had to go outside, right? And they would say, go outside and play. We'll let you know. Be home before it's dark. And when you go over and play in the park, you know the rule. Don't talk to strangers. We actually had a talk track. My mom would make us practice, right? So what else happened? Well, I'm from New England, so I have issues regardless, right? You know who you are. So here's the thing. It's rude in New England to talk about money. Rude. No one says, hey, how much does that cost? And if you think about it, I'm 14 years old, at a table. My dad's a teacher, right? As I said, single income. It's now October. I'm pretty sure it was not acceptable for me to say, hey, Dad, could you pass the corn? Out of curiosity, I'd like to ask a question to the family. How are we doing this year financially? What? My dad would say, we taught you better than that. Have manners. You don't talk about money. And by the way, just for the record, you worry about your grades. Your mom and I will worry about the money. And as far as we're concerned, we're the only ones doing their job. So get to it. That's another script problem I'll tell you about later. But conceptual stuff holds us back. What about technical? So it's not that I can't. Technical sometimes is, hey, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I sit there and I say, I don't know how to break through. I don't know the words. I don't know the technique. I don't know what to do. And if you do, part 2 of technical is, you're no good at it. So I'm not even saying the right thing. So there's reasons why we're holding back. But let's talk about some other things. If you think about what we're doing now, right? We've got to now overcome that obstruction. We've got to do things. I think you've got to create the environment. You've got to create the environment and create the opportunity. So if we talk about create the environment to have a breakthrough, if we understand that we've got some technical issues potentially, we've got some conceptual issues that we'll spend 2 days talking about, how do you set yourself up for more than one breakthrough per career? Well, first one is environment. What does that mean? That means two things to me. Number one, I think you really should do an inventory of your gaps. Where are you now, and where would you like to be? Because if you think about a breakthrough, what is it? You're advancing through something. Well, you can't advance if you don't know where you are. A breakthrough is not walking in a single spot. You've got to push through. So in order to do that, you have to say, okay, here's where I am, realistically, not fantasy, and here's where I want to be. That's a big task. But if you think in buckets, you know I'm a DC, right? So for the disc people, I'm a DC. So for those, that doesn't mean it nets it down to does care. So if you know who I am, Mr. Warm and Fuzzy. It's oozing, I can feel it. So here's the thing, you have to put yourself in buckets. So for me, I say, okay, if I'm a salesperson, my buckets could be account development. I'm gonna do some gaps where I am and all my account development stuff. In the sales portion of my bucket, in account development, and then in conceptual, because that needs a bucket in its own. And I would sit back and say, okay, in those 4 areas, let's really do an inventory of where I am in those given areas. And not really a cursory, just really pay attention. Say, I'm here, I'm a 3, and I want to be a 10, because if I'm a 10, then really my breakthrough is, boom, I'm going to do this. Because there's a lot of little pieces of breakthroughs that get you to greatness. There's no one big jump. She spent 6 hours a day in rehab. I'm sure she had tons of little breakthroughs before she went on Dances with the Stars and won gold medals. So there's a lot of them. And everyone's looking for the big back one, like, yeah, I want to win the mega millions. I get it. But I think we should do that gap. Here's the second thing that I think, and I learned this right from David. I think you have to focus. Spend your time thinking about where you are, where you want to go, and the path to get there. Sandler would say to me, David, I want to talk to you about how we're going to tackle X, Y, Z. I would say, okay, absolutely. I'm meeting you tomorrow morning. I'll have a list of ideas. He'd say, I don't want your list of ideas tomorrow. I'm like, okay. Well, what does that mean exactly? He said, look, I want you to spend time on it. Nothing's going to pop into your brain as a genius attack between now and tomorrow if we haven't already fixed it. I said, okay. And so what he would do is say, I want you to think about this. And I would initially, my mind, I can't even help myself. I would always start with, well, that's not going to happen. That's, nope, denial, complete denial. And then I would walk over and say, well, okay, what happens if it was true? What happens if we could do it? What happens if I was a Martian and I just came here for the first time, which was the Sandler deal? I'm a Martian. I said, okay, let's assume I didn't know any better. And then I said, well, how are the competitors doing it? And then how's the market doing it? And how's this? And what I learned was, when I have a topic, and if you know me personally, you know what I'm telling you is accurate. When I have a topic, and let's say I now say I'm going to do thinking about this topic. When I go play golf, I bring one thing to think about. I know what it is. I think about it before I leave. I say, what's the topic I'm going to be thinking about today? And then I'll either go exercise, I'll go walk, I'll go do yard work, I'll go play golf. So for the 4 hours that I'm playing golf, right, I'm thinking, because I only play 9 holes, so I've got to keep it short. But it starts to come, because after a while, if you start to think about a particular issue in lots of different ways and give your time to percolate, stuff comes to you. Great ideas come to you. When I take a plane ride, and if I'm flying to a different country, if I'm flying to the other side of the country, the office gets nervous. They freak out because they say, oh my gosh, Dave's got 7 hours on his own to think about things. And there's a good chance he's not talking to the person next to him, right? So And it's true. I come back with lists of things that we're going to attack this issue, and then they start where I started before I left. Can't do that. Dave, that doesn't work. No, another great idea. Thank God you're the owner. Keep doing that. That's awesome. You know, all that stuff. But you should ask yourselves, do you spend the time to really think about the things that you want to do a breakthrough on? My nature as a D is I don't like to spend a lot of time thinking about any one thing. And then I give myself a self-stroke for having the ability to juggle many different problems at the same time. That doesn't mean that I'm having breakthroughs. That just doesn't mean that. So if I carry a little pad of paper with me every time I go and exercise, every time I golf, every time I walk, and I'm amazed what random thought pops into my mind on that topic when I'm thinking about it. Or if somebody says something to me, unrelated, but it's related to me, I jot it down because now I'm laser focused on that topic. So think about creating the environment. Do a realistic gap. Where are you? Where do you want to be? And think about it and give yourself more time. But there's some other things that I think you should do. I think we should also create the opportunity. What's that mean? This is where the work comes in. Because as Mike said, breakthroughs just don't come to you. You know, you're not opening up a gift every month that says, here's your breakthrough from Amazon. So that's not how it works. You've got to put work into it. You know, what is luck? Isn't the definition of luck hard work met by opportunity? So everyone says, oh, Dave, that was, and they also know, hey, that good idea. If I tell you an idea, especially at my company, you know I've been thinking about it for months. And they already know that. But I want you to think about it for months. Because I want to put the work into it. Because I don't think that we deserve, we're not entitled to breakthroughs. If you put the work into them, we deserve them. But think about this. It's Friday night. You're home. You're in your chair, your favorite chair, right? No one sits there. You have a do not sit sign there. It's Friday night, another exciting evening. You're into your third beer. You're watching your fourth episode of Cops, right? You know who you are. And they're playing that song. What is it? I have speaker's cramp. What is that? What is it? Yeah. There you go. So, you know that song. And here's how, funny guys in the back, funny guys, and everybody's a jokester. Here's the thing. Bad boys, right? You've been sitting in that chair so long waiting for your breakthrough that you seriously are considering putting together a demo tape to send back to them as a backup singer for the Cop song, right? I mean, you've now convinced yourself that is your breakthrough. You know, I think I've missed my calling. I sound pretty good. But I promise you, you don't sound good in the shower. You don't sound good after your fourth beer sitting in that chair either, right? But you've got to put the time into it. So, talk tracks. If you've been to any boot camp that I've run, you know I'm a huge believer in talk tracks. I think you need to know them. You need to own them. What are talk tracks? Talk tracks are the things that you should, I'll give you some examples. Talk tracks are things like this. You should be able to recite without thinking talk tracks. You may call them scripts. It's fine. I use talk tracks. You should be able to just bang them out. Why? Because if you've ever listened to Sandler on audio, when somebody says, hey, David, ba, 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 you know what shocks me the first time I listened to it? Sandler had those responses like, boom, right away. Like the person didn't even finish. And he said, I understand. Well, and then he does his thing. And I was always amazed. And so I finally said, when I had the opportunity to work with him, he goes, David, if you don't know your side, then you can't listen to their side. You need to spend an exorbitant amount of time learning your talk tracks. You need to practice. And so I took that to heart. And the people, the trainers certainly know, I am a talk track person. I practice. I think if you're going to learn your talk tracks, to put yourself in a position to know your part so you can then actually focus on other stuff. See, a breakthrough shouldn't be, I know my 30-second commercial. A breakthrough shouldn't be, I know more than 3 rules, right? Shouldn't be. So you have to practice. Your ears have to hear what your mouth is saying. And you know that. Because if I go into your company, before I show up, I'm going to know your upfront contract. I'm going to know your 30-second commercial. I would have practiced that. I would have my talk tracks down. And the first couple of times I do them, it is horrific. Bad. And I said, wow, where did you learn that 30-second commercial? From Dale Carnegie? That was terrible, right? What happened? And I said, I have comfort, because I say, thank goodness, you cannot fire yourself. So I still have a job, but it's bad. It's bad. But it got better and better and better. Why? Because the more you say it, the more you hear it, the more it becomes you, and then it's part of your DNA. So should you be able to do a presumptive question? Should you be able to do your 30-second commercial? Should you be able to recruit a coach? Should you be able to make sure that you can get that monkey's paw done? Do you have a speech for the first time that you met a new buyer at your company because the person that you used to deal with all the time has left? Or do you just go into panic mode? These are only samples for salespeople. But there are tons of them for management. And there are tons of them that have only applied to you. Like, these are sales stuff, but I have talk tracks that just have to do with Sandler. Very specific to our company. And I know you do too. So here's what I want you to do. As quickly as you can. I want you to write down 2 talk tracks that you probably should get under your belt a little better. And one could be on this list, general sales, fine. But I also want you to write down one that's probably very specific to your organization that doesn't make it up to this sample list. 2, what should I be spending my time on getting my talk tracks down? As quickly as you can, write down 2, because we're going to do something with it in a minute or 2. So jot them down. What 2 talk tracks do you think you should be spending a little more time on for you to become a rockin' machine so you can set yourself up to have a breakthrough? What are they? Which 2? Jot them down. And underneath that, I want you to do one more thing for our upcoming exercise. How much time do you really practice? And I'll say every week. I'll even say in a week's time. How much time do you practice? I don't care if it's a talk track. You could practice a presentation. You could practice whatever. But practice something that makes you better at what you do. How many hours a week? And be super honest. No one's looking at you. Just jot the number down. And 0 is a number. Many people are reactive. I put a lot of time into it when I have an event. I've told you this in the past. I have a 45-minute drive to work. And every drive up and every drive back, I will pick a talk track. And I'll just say, let's do it again. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Why? I've done the sales course literally 15,000 times. So I probably have moved past those talk tracks to other talk tracks, as you can too. But I do it every single day. Every day. Because I don't know when I'm going to need them, and I'm going to put myself in a position to have a breakthrough. I just can't tell you when that's coming, but I'm ready. So put down yours. I know what mine is. I know what mine is. Even to this day, if I do a 2-day boot camp, I'm putting hours and hours and hours into that, even though I've done it 1,000,000 times. So you got those 3 things down? Talk track maybe on this list. Talk track that specifically for your company. And how much time do we spend? So if we're going to be practicing, which is great, I'm going back to another comment, which was, all right, buckets. So I've put up some samples that maybe some of these things may be a breakthrough for you. But this is how I do it. I do it as, okay, account development, sales, account management, conceptual. And so I ask you to think about it. If I went to account development first, how many of us would maybe have a breakthrough if we did our cookbook? We know what a cookbook is. We are behavioralists. You know the attitude, behavior, technique. Behavior is super important. We've talked about cookbook 1,000,000 times in your programs. You can probably tell me what it is, but do you use it? I know how to exercise, and I do once a year, right? So because I know it doesn't mean I do it. So you really need, if you were to reflect for a second, if it comes to that, do you actually use your cookbook? Or do you use your cookbook when things aren't going well? Do you know the people that religiously use that cookbook in a consistent manner blow away the rest of the company? And that's a cookbook for leaders, and it's a cookbook for salespeople. But ask yourself, would I have a breakthrough if I actually did all the things that I'm supposed to be doing in a consistent manner every single day, every single month? I would venture to say, I would bet my money the answer would be yes. But sometimes we're looking for breakthroughs on what's the magic one-liner. It's the magic one-liner. That's not always true. We all know how to use LinkedIn. We all know. We have a book with LinkedIn. We've got great prospecting stuff that has LinkedIn in it. All good. But when we're struggling to find new opportunities, how many of us really, really are tracking the people who leave your customers, your raving fans? I know if my key contact left, we know that because when you dial, they're not there. So that's kind of easy. But what about the other people in that department or in that group that used your product or service, that were, right, influencers? What about them? It's not just the one person. It should be the whole team. Do you track when they leave? Because if they loved you here, why wouldn't they love you there? And so when you come to a prospecting program and say, I need to figure out how to get in front of net new customers, and you've got about 50 people over the last 2 years who have left customer companies that would gladly take your call, they know who you are, but we don't follow them. They don't follow them. You know, sales to me is a very simple job. You have to protect and grow relationships, and you have to plunder somebody else's. Very simple. And if you're not protecting and growing, you're going to be plundered. That's how it works. So if they're leaving for another organization, now you know maybe I'm going to see if there's an opportunity. What about even sales process? What about sales process? First, how many of us really follow a sales process every single day? How many? And some people say, well, what do you mean? I've got a sub shirt on now. I get that part. I've got a sub shirt too. Let me show it to you. So we all have sub shirts on. But if you're an accounting firm, if you're an IT or a technology firm, you're selling products, you're manufacturing, we all go to market differently. Every company that I'll go in, we adapt the Sandler selling system to their sales environment. If you're selling technology and you have a proof of concept stage, you don't see a proof of concept stage in the sub, but if that's what you do, then the Sandler tactics and strategies fit very nicely in there. You want to make sure that they are qualified before that. You want to make sure that you have a rock solid upfront contract. So I would urge you to say, do we have one that fits for our company? We're all using Sandler, I get it. And if enterprise selling model works as is, crush it. If the Sandler selling system works as is, awesome. If it doesn't, and you have little nuances, then you should make sure that you have that down. And what is it? And print it out and make sure everybody in your company can recite it. There's only 4 out of 10 companies that I'll visit that actually have their system mapped out and integrate with Sandler. They say, okay, we do Sandler. And I get that part. I get that part. But you also do all these things. So what are we doing over there? We'll deal with that next year. I said, okay, but we could do it now. How about even pre-call? We all love pre-call planners. But could you have a breakthrough on a call if you actually did one? I mean, most of us think of it, we do pre-call planners in our minds, in our head, which I get. But if you were to do it consistently and really sit down, would you have a better outcome? So if you look at these buckets, and whether it's, again, development, whether it's sales, whether it's account management, I mean, do we really have 3 to 4 coaches on every single prospect that you're trying to close? In my world, if you don't have 3 or 4 coaches, you're not going to get the deal. So we got to make sure that we get those coaches. And you always have to ask people that are your coaches a magic question. Is this one of the top 3 to 5 initiatives that are important to you for this year? If I ask a coach, is that one of the top 3 things that are super important to you for you to achieve this year? If they say no, I get nervous. If it's a list of 100, chances are I may get bumped. I may get bumped. So here's what I want you to do as we break. I want you to look at those buckets. And the last thing I want you to write down on your piece of paper is this. In which area should I probably focus in on first? I know that I should get my talk tracks down. If I were going to have a breakthrough, where would I focus first? Versus just send me a breakthrough. I don't care where it is. Right? So if you know you need help in development, use that one. Pick the one that fits for you. Jot it down right now. What's your bucket? Jot it down. And here's what I want you to do during your 15-minute break. And certainly when you go back with your trainers. I want you to share with people as you're getting coffee, as you're talking at your tables throughout the day, what were the 2 talk tracks that you wrote down? What were the 2 talk tracks that you wrote down? And which bucket are you going to be spending time in? Where is it? And the reason I want you to do that is because when you say it out loud, you have a much higher commitment level to get it done. And so my point is, as we set up the 2 days together, that if you look at certain areas, whether it's development, sales, account management, and or conceptual, where are my areas that I could have the most impact and I could break through? Where are they? Because once you can get focused in on one, then you can do all the things that we talked about, which is to spend more time really sitting back and say, how am I going to attack that? How am I going to do that? Because you know, based on my behavioral personality type, I'm a bucket guy. What doesn't work for me is 18 is the year of breakthrough. Just let me have it. I can't do it that way. I've got to think, okay, buckets, it allows me to focus, allows me to get it done. So as you go through the next 2 days, challenge yourself. Look at the speakers and say, how is this going to help me? Because we've broken it up to breakthroughs from a technique standpoint, technical, breakthroughs conceptually. What is holding us back? But then equally as important, what are we going to do to help you take it to the next level? And that's our goal, and that's your challenge over the next 2 days. So, look down, get ready to share. I want you all to have a great 2 days. It was awesome to meet you last night. I'll meet you over the next couple days, but do everything that you can to ensure that you will have your breakthrough this year. Enjoy the program. Good luck.
Put your hands together for David Mattson, everybody. Thank you, Dave.